Let's get ready for the Greninja 7-star raid in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. So January 26th, 4 p.m. Pacific time is when the raid begins, and it's against a very powerful Poison-type Greninja. So here's the thing about 7-star raids. You can't know what works best against them until they come out, because they're going to have more than 4 moves, and it can be all kinds of weird stuff. Now, this is going to be even worse with Greninja, because Greninja is notoriously ridiculous when it comes to its move pool. That, oh, you want to go Steel-type Pokemon to immune the poison? Boom, low sweep, get KO'd. Ground, well, it's a base Water-type Pokemon, so Hydro Pump is going to be nasty. Grass Knot can get in the way, and yeah, Ice Beam, all kinds of coverage. So Greninja is going to be like one of the hardest ones to plan for, so don't get married to an idea or a Pokemon you want to build before the raid comes out. That something might just work initially, maybe one of these ideas just wins always, or maybe some sleeper unknown Pokemon with a Tera-type crazy combination is going to work out because Greninja is just pretty weird. Now the Poison Tera-type says we're going to be facing Gunk Shot Greninja. 120 base power. That is going to hurt, and there's an 80% accuracy. So there could also just be an angle where a lot of this raid is RNG, and we also don't know what Greninja is going to do for the first turn. We've seen like 7-star raids, they get a cheaty first turn, Charizard leading with the overheat, so Greninja might just go Gunk Shot every time, first time, so maybe like a steel base Pokemon that Tera's into something against its coverage might work, or maybe you just need a Pokemon that can absorb that first Gunk Shot. Or maybe it does something else setup. Who even knows with the Greninja? Low Kick, we talked about this against Steel types, Hydro Pump, other coverage is going to be crazy. So what Pokemon can work? Well, at least we have a couple of answers with the Storm Drain and the Water Absorb, so people are looking into bulky Pokemon that will just survive. Also, the ground typing going to be good against poison, and then set up enough and just withstand Greninja's onslaught and eventually wear it down with super effective moves and stuff like that. What we learned from the last couple of Tera raids is that sweeping Pokemon and risky setup don't really work. Why go for a Belly Drum when all you need is a Shell Bell and a little bit of light setup, and then you can just kind of permanently sustain and grind out the battle? Going for the one-shot didn't really work on anything except for the Slowbro, and that brings us to new information we've learned about Tera raids. Cheers are overpowered. They persist through getting KO'd, they don't get cleansed by the enemy Pokemon, and they also stack on top of the boosting you already have. So a +6 isn't capped, and you can just go all out on top of that and get more damage. I have a video breaking it down, so this opens up a lot more potential and a lot more combos, but maybe it is like you just lead with the Hang Tough, get your setup, go all out, pop, and then see what happens, or just be unkillable. And that's where, like, I wonder how this is going to go, because there is a lot of talk about the Clodsire, a lot of talk about the Gastrodon. Gastrodon, you need a couple of turns of setup. Stockpile makes you very hard to KO. Chilling Water, going to be really nice to just, like, reduce the attack of the Greninja. And that ended up being a thing, too. Like, if you aren't that useful, and if you don't have a lot of tools, or if you, like, waste all of your resources on a Pokemon that ends up not being good, as long as you have something that can intimidate. Just initially reduce the damage of the opposing Pokemon, maybe Snarl, maybe do some tactive cheering. Like, if you don't get KO'd, that's all you really need to do in multiplayer, as long as other players are being productive and not dead weight. So Gyarados actually succeeded with the Cinderace raid in kind of its own weird way. But I'm wondering, like, if everyone brings Gastrodon, does it have enough to just, like, wear the Greninja down through Earth Power, Cheers, and just not going anywhere? Or does Greninja bring the Grass Knot, and then Gastrodon is just completely useless for this raid? Because people are saying, oh, you want to go Tera Ground, because you go Tera Ground, Storm Drain makes it where the Hydro Pump doesn't work. Well, if you just get KO'd by the 4x Grass, you don't have enough turns to stack into that, and yeah, but Tera Ground, Earth Power, will get through the shields, will break down the Greninja if it doesn't have Grass Knot. Same thing on the Clodsire. Like, we don't know which one is going to be the most effective until we know the moveset of Greninja. That if Greninja has Extra Sensory, then it's going to be very hard to set up the Clodsire. Just eating super effective hits is going to be GG. So cool, you have Water Absorb for the ground typing, and it doesn't matter because you just get 2-tapped by the Extra Sensory. At least, like, Amnesia's good. The Poison Ground gonna make it to where the Gunk Shot doesn't work against Greninja, and then you can just throw out damage. Curse Amnesia, start stacking, getting pretty powerful. And even then, like, if the stat benefits on your side get cleansed by the opposing Tera Pokemon, then you could just cheer defense or something, or try to get your stats back and become unkillable and then heal, and then you're going to be in a pretty good spot anyways. So like getting cleansed isn't the end of the world, and as long as you stay alive, then the timer should be okay. I mostly just wanted to make this video to express caution about bringing the Pokemon that people are most hyping up about the Greninja raid, because it can go very wrong. And we've been seeing this for the last 2 months with all kinds of Tera raids, not just 7 stars, but 6 stars as well. Belly Drum isn't good, Cat raids aren't good, Golden Go is overrated, but people will still be married to these strategies and then make online very difficult to raid with because they just keep throwing games. Because for some reason, they watch a YouTube video from an influencer that's frequently wrong, like Austin John, and then they just commit and all into that for no reason. So I'm going to be giving my preemptive pick for the Greninja raid, and I'm going to say Vaporeon looks pretty strong because of that stored power, but that just kind of goes back to Slowbro. Maybe Slowbro is just like the winning play. The Covert Cloak is going to protect you against the Gunk Shot. I don't really see like too many other shenanigans that can go wrong unless it is like extra sensory. Oh boy, we don't flinch 10% of the time, but yeah, so you go Covert Cloak, that way you don't get poisoned, you set up Calm Mind Acid Armor, hopefully you get to that stored power, and even with like the Slowbro, sometimes like depending on the clock or how the RNG of when your stats get cleared by the opposing Tera Raid Pokemon, like if you just have a fat Pokemon sitting in there chipping away, it's gonna be okay. The thing about Slowbro is that it ramped up quick because you had Nasty Plot and the Iron Armor, but again, using the information about Tera Raids, you probably don't have to go like all in. You can do 6 Nasty Plots, 2 Iron Defense with an all-out cheer, lead with Hang Tough, and maybe not even need to do as much defensive cheering, and you probably get enough damage. Also, not one-shotting the 7-star raid isn't the end, so you do a ton of damage, you get your stats cleared, but then you just set up again, and then you wait it out, and you eventually Tera, and then you can win. So not everything has to be a one-shot, and as long as your Pokemon is alive, you're probably doing fine. Fake Tears also adds some utility to Pokemon like the Vaporeon, so if you're doing this with other people, you can, you know, Calm Mind, Acid Armor, stay alive, Fake Tears, start chipping away, and then Stored Power is going to be pretty crazy damage. So I was thinking about my plan of just like bringing Slowbro and seeing what the Greninja has, but it has to have the Dark Pulse now that I'm thinking about it. So it's going to get Move Slot Syndrome. It's not going to have something, and I'm guessing like Grass Knot seems the most likely, maybe even the Extra Sensory. It's not going to have something, and that's going to be the vulnerability, because as a poison type, it's kind of annoying because, yeah, Psychic is strong against poison, but with the natural Water Dark, if it actually has the Dark Pulse, then Psychic-type Pokemon going to have a pretty bad time. I don't think Espathra is going to just kind of like sneak in there and be busted for some kind of reason. Unless the Defense Cheer is enough to kind of keep Espathra alive through like the first Dark Pulse, and then Lumina Crash is just like permanent healing. But if you ever like get tripped up or if anything goes wrong, then you're just having a bad time. Slowbro might not be tanky enough to survive any kind of Dark Pulse from a Greninja, so you won't be enough to set up. And I think that means like, yeah, Vaporeon is going to be the play. Actually, big brain idea, because I was looking through the Steel type Pokemon, Klefki. Greninja doesn't have super effective hits against you, and then Prankster gets all wild. So Klefki gets stored power, which is really all we need. We also have access to the Calm Mind, we have Iron Defense, so now we outspeed the Greninja, get tankier against it, and that's going to be it. And like we learned with the Slowbro, you actually don't need Slack Off. You can just use the Heal Cheer, and you're probably fine. And then maybe like Citrus Berry, just kind of keep it alive. There could be just a better item. With the Steel typing, we don't have to worry about getting poisoned, so that frees up the Covert Cloak potentially. And then last move, like whatever Greninja is strongest with. We can go Reflect, we can go Light Screen. I don't think Recycle gives us enough healing, but maybe if like one Heal Cheer isn't enough, but for some reason 25% health is, we're at like +4 Iron Defense, +2, +3 Calm Mind, and then you just go for it on the stored power. Also, Klefki has the opportunity to pivot into being a supportive Pokemon for everyone, that you just go Reflect Light Screen, Calm Mind in the back, and eventually you pop off with the stored power. So I think Klefki could just be like a secret carry, and it also augments all the other Pokemon. Like when I'm thinking about running the Vaporeon, what I want most is someone to Reflect Light Screen, mostly Light Screen for the Grass Knot, just so I can set up and win. Same thing on the Gastrodon. Like if you can just enable someone to set up and win, that's going to be really good on like a reliable Light Screen Reflect. You know some idiot's going to bring Grimmsnarl and get one shot by the Gunk Shot though. Someone always does that with these kinds of raids. And I think there's a good PSA to sprinkle in here, but as we've learned with Tera raids and just general Pokemon community toxicity over the last decade, they're not going to listen or care. But if you're going to be trying out something, just do a solo raid first. Lose a solo raid with your strat just so you can see like if the Greninja has something that it immediately uses that hard counters you if you're doing this like minute 1 before we know the movesets and stuff. Because there's a world where people just go online for the first time for the Greninja raid, all bringing Gastrodon, and then just Grass Knot one-shots everyone. And then that's it. There goes your raid. I guess that is a way of learning, but it's pretty annoying that that is a reality. And I think like Klefki is just kind of the safest one to kind of scout what the Greninja does, while also having a win condition and being supportive enough to enable other teams to win. So Klefki, I might just, like, it's one of those things where, like, I can build a Klefki for online help, and then maybe I'll just have a Vaporeon as well, and I can beat it solo. And maybe another solo Pokemon appears, and maybe it is Vaporeon, or you just go online with Gastrodon, and it can't lose. Who knows where we're going to end up, but that's kind of like some ideas I had. Now, fortunately, I did put a good amount of time into the Eevee event, so we have a Psychic Eevee, but it's Anticipation, which is hidden ability, and that's not going to be the Water Absorb on the Vaporeon. Also, like, you can't go Tera Psychic on your first stored power usage, so it's kind of like if it falls apart, and maybe by then you don't even need to Tera Psychic, and also potentially open yourself up for the Dark Pulse. So maybe that isn't even needed. I have a Psychic with Anticipation, so yeah, a lot of anticipations. And I didn't catch too many Psychics, because who's going to need a Psychic Tera type or Tera Shards for any kind of reason? I don't know, this one's going to be either very straightforward on like Gastrodon being the secret OP, or kind of tricky and really solving the Greninja puzzle. And we can't know for sure until the raid comes out and then people find a way to crush it. I was also wondering, like, what about a light steel type Pokemon? Maybe the low kick doesn't work, and then there could be a dual typing that's successful against the rest of the moveset, and then you just kind of play it out, or yeah, you just Earthquake everything and win. So it's gonna be interesting to see how the Greninja goes. Those are some of the ideas going in, and we're going to see how it plays out. So if you guys enjoy the video, hope you all have a nice day. Thank you very much for watching.